I'm Scott Padway, and this breakout is called The Human Race. Let's take a look at all the parts. For this breakout, you're going to need the flashlight in the 3-digit lockbox. You'll also need another 3-digit lock, or you can use a 4-digit lock with a few zeros. You'll need 2 4-digit number locks, the word lock, the hasp, the key lock, and the directional lock. The first 3-digit lock is going to open up with a combination from the world population milestones. Each one of these represents the population reaching 1 billion people, 2 billion people, 3 billion people, 4 billion, 5 billion, 6 billion, all the way to 7 billion. The combination is the number of years it took to reach that milestone. So from 1 billion to 2 billion was 127 years, 2 to 3 billion was 33 years, 3 to 4 was 14, 4 to 5 was 13 years, 5 to 6 was 12 years, and then participants need to figure out that it was 12 years later that we hit 7 billion. So the combination to open up this 3-digit lock is going to be 0, 1, 2, and that will get you into the first 3-digit number lock. The next lock, to open up the lockbox, participants are going to need to scan this QR code on the United Nations clue. Now, when we use our QR code scanner and we scan the QR code, it will take us to the United Nations list of member nation states. On this list, participants can either count all 193 members, or they can Google it to figure out how many members are part of the United Nations. When you figure out that it's 193 member states, that will open up your 3-digit box and give you your black UV light. The next clue is the marriage equality clue and the Obergefell v. Hodges decision. And to solve this clue, participants will need to look inside of these circles, and you'll notice that there are 9 Supreme Court justices. They'll need to figure out what the split decision was, which was 5 to 4. And we have marriage equality, so the male-male symbols, and they're 2. They're each inside of these bubbles, so 9, 5, 4, and 2 will open up this 4-digit lock. Now, to open up the next 4-digit lock, students will once again need to scan a QR code. This QR code will take students to a Google form. And the form says, now the Google form says there are many faces to acts of courage and can take place anywhere. There's a photo, and the question that asks you where. Now, this photo was taken during the 1968 Olympics, and the American athletes, Tommie Smith and John Carlos, both were in support of the civil rights back home, stood on the podium with the Black Power salute during the national anthem. The Australian in the photo, Peter Norman, was wearing an Olympic Project for Human Rights badge in support of John Carlos and Tommie Smith. Unfortunately, it cost Peter Norman a trip to the 1972 Olympics and really kind of brought him back in disgrace. John Carlos and Tommie Smith became African-American civil rights symbols, but Peter Norman, when he went home, was not treated the same way, and you can find out more about him in the movie Salute. But the answer to this is Mexico City, and when you go ahead and submit it, you'll get a little bit of information about them, a link to a CNN article about the Forgotten Man, which is about Peter Norman, as well as a link to a YouTube trailer. Now, the CNN article is just kind of a decoy in there. It is the shortened URL, which will take you to the YouTube trailer. That's what we want. When the trailer opens up, you'll see Selma 1965, and 1965 is going to be the clue that then opens up the 4-digit lock, 1965. Now, for the next clue to solve the 5-digit word lock, we use these photos here. These are all Nobel Peace Prize winners. We have Malala Yousafzai, Liu Xiaobo, Kofi Annan, Nelson Mandela, and Aung San Suu Kyi. All civil rights leaders in their own countries. It's a great opportunity to talk about some of the amazing achievements of these individuals. Now, what students will need is they'll need the UV flashlight And what I did is I colored the first letter of everybody's name. Now it's a little hard to see that, so on the back I've also circled the first letter, and you can see there's the M there. Now for all of these individuals, that first letter is circled with the exception of Kofi Annan. So he's going to be removed from this group. Students need to identify them as Nobel Peace Prize winners and put them in the order from the most recent Nobel Peace Prize winner, Malala, to the most distant, which was Aung San Suu Kyi. And that first initial of each letter will open up the lock. So M, L, N, A, and there will leave a blank spot at the end. That will open up the 4-digit word lock. Again, Kofi was left off because we did not highlight or circle his K in his name. Now, one of my favorite clues for this game is the Peter Menzel website printouts from his Hungry Planet series. Hungry Planet shows a family with the amount of food they consume in a week, as well as the dollar amount of that food for the week. And so we have families here from Guatemala, India, Cuba, Turkey, and Poland. The others that we've printed out are Egypt and Mali. Now, Egypt and Mali do not have dollar values with them, so those two will not be used. I've gone through and I've just drawn arrows on each of these for the combination, up, down, right, right, left. And what students are going to need to do is they'll need to put these in order from the families that spend the least amount of money on food, $31 in Guatemala, $39 in India, $56 in Cuba, $145 in Turkey, and $151 a week in Poland. They'll need to put those in that order, and that combination will then open up the directional lock. Now, Peter Menzel has a ton of these on his website, so feel free to use regions that are slightly more appropriate to your content areas. 2, 1. Now, the key lock is always my favorite. You can hide the key anywhere you'd like. I generally will tape it onto the bottom of the box. But that is the human race. It is a celebration of cultural diversity around this one small planet that we share. And hopefully it gives you an opportunity to have some conversations about people, about places, and about the differences that make us all unique and really make this an amazing planet to live on.